about the importance of the artifacts in interpreting social, cultural, political, and economic processes. But before we proceed to our main discussion, I would like to know what is the most valuable possession you currently have and when did you obtain it? Ano yung bagay na pinapahalagahan mo and you consider the most valuable thing that you have? So as you can see, for some people, prized possession do not necessarily equate to high prices or limited edition pieces. Some individuals, in which include some of you, says that their most or your most valuable possession are items that you kept from the past and now serves as like a remembrance of your fond memories. Probably something that was given to you by your loved ones, your parents or grandparents, or your friends back then. So, like these items, the artifactual evidence may not necessarily be worth much, but they imply so much culture and historical meaning. For example, a simple piece of ceramic such as an ancient jar, that might be a common thing, but the meaning it holds and the era it was formed or it was made, that makes it certainly more significant than some of the expensive modern jars that we have. So today we will learn about the importance of the artifacts and, well, in understanding the social, cultural, political, and the economic processes. So let's first define what is an artifact or artifacts. So artifacts are objects made or modified by humans in the past, and well, they were recovered to do archaeological endeavor or sometimes by chance. And apart from serving as a window to the past, artifacts as well is a dimmed or they are deemed significant because they are tangible and authentic proof that a certain period in the history really exists or really occurred. Let's say, for example, during your presentation, diba, yung different period in time, how they were identified and classified is because of the artifacts found. So it is really something that helps to prove that a certain period in the history really happened. So artifacts have a significant contribution in interpreting the social, cultural, political, and economic processes of the past period. Without the artifactual evidences, no development in any aspect of life would have been discovered. So let's have this. Here are some examples of how artifacts impacted social, political, cultural, and economic processes. And let's start with the economic processes. There is this thing called cuneiform writing back then. It was in the Middle East in the Sumerian times, and it is a like a trade of communication in terms of tallying the income and loss during the trading system back then. And in terms of the political processes, we have this Code of Hammurabi. It was like the laws of the people in the Mesopotamia that they followed, and it's like the constitution that we have today. And in terms of the culture, one example is in our country, the Malunggul jar. It was believed to be the vessel to transport the dead into the afterlife. So the artifact tell us something about the belief system and something about how the culture works during the prehistoric time. And we have the social processes. One of that is the piercing in the nose, which implies the social status of the people back then. The bigger the piercing you have in your nose, the higher your status or the wealthier your family is. And in contrary to that, mas maliit, mas not well established. So all artifacts tells us a story about the past. And when they were first made, yung mga tao back then, they did not realize that those objects that they used in everyday life would make such an impact in our present time. So same thing today, perhaps, maybe. Yung mga bagay na ginagamit nyo lang ngayon in your everyday life might be something very significant in the future for them to understand how our life works today. So let's now see this. Some of you might still have this kind of question in your mind. Why is it important to preserve the artifacts? So there are four main reasons why artifacts or the preservation of artifacts is important. So let's go with it one by one. Artifacts are irreplaceable. So can anybody give your thoughts with this? Can I have CJ, please? Artifacts are irreplaceable. CJ?
Hello po.
Yeah. Try to give your thoughts in this one. Mahalaga daw ang pag-preserve ng artifacts dahil ang artifacts ay irreplaceable.
Opo, sir. Kasi po yung mga artifacts po dati, they give value po sa nung unang panahon and mahirap po silang i-recreate ulit. Kaya po sila irreplaceable po.
Okay, so artifacts are they're being made hundreds or even thousands of years ago, and they're very delicate objects that cannot be replaced by any available materials that we have in our present time. And as I said, artifacts carry with them the important culture and historical meaning that no person in our present time could bring back. So this is actually one of the reason why many museums around the world only display the replicas of the material culture instead of the real one kasi they're very sensitive and very delicate. So pag nasira, they're irreplaceable and so they use replicas na lang in some museums. Next, artifacts are key to understanding the past. Can I have Okay, thank you so much, James. So yeah, despite of the seemingly great success of the archaeologists have made in the recent years, there is still more to discover, as what you said about the history. So we should like see artifacts as a puzzle that will eventually provide a general picture of the past. So just imagine may puzzle, tapos habang binubuo mo yung mga puzzle, yun yung artifacts, habang dumadami yung artifacts, yung mga puzzle na meron ka, mas lumilinaw yung picture ng kung ano ba yung meron sa past. So yeah, it is yet the past is yet to be fully discovered through the help of some evidences, including the artifacts. So on the last slide, I have here your third activity. So this year is your third activity. So to it, we are going to talk about the enculturation and socialization. And but before that, before we formally start our discussion about enculturation and socialization, I have here an activity for you. So this is the Joe Harry window. Are you familiar with this? Are you familiar with this, Osprey? So the Joe Harry window it is a simple test used to determine and describe an individual's characteristics. So take a look at the illustration. So it shows four different types of characteristics in four different boxes. The upper left box, it indicates qualities you and others are aware of. Yung mga characteristics, qualities of you na aware ka, same with the people, aware din yung people or the people surrounding you. And then the box beside it shows the qualities that you're not aware of but are known to others or other people could observe in you. And then the next box or the lower left box, it is designated for the qualities that you know about yourself but others do not know about you or yung hidden area. And then lastly, yung last box, the lower right box, it specifies qualities naman that well neither you nor other people know about you. So again, yung color red, the open area, ito yung mga qualities, characteristics, and all about you na alam mo, aware ka at aware din yung mga people, I mean yung mga tao sa the blind area, ito yung mga characteristics mo na hindi ka aware but other people can observe sa'yo. The hidden area, ito yung mga alam mo, pero maybe you choose not to show to other people or let other people know about it. And then yung unknown area, ito yung mga bagay na hindi mo alam at hindi rin alam ng ibang tao sa'yo. Let's say for example, may tinanong sa'yo, tapos ang sagot mo, hindi ko alam. For example, gusto mo ba ng sushi? Hindi ka pa nakatikim ng sushi ever since you do not know how it tastes. And so, ang sasagot mo, hindi ko alam. So, yun yung mga bagay na nasa unknown area, yung mga bagay na hindi mo pa na-experienced firsthand, or yung mga bagay na wala ka pang idea. So, again, this week, this will be about enculturation and socialization with regards to the identity formation. And as we all know, all members of the society, we interact with one another. And as we do, we engage in multiple social processes that helps us in terms of molding our individual characteristics, our preferences, and values. So we are going to discuss about different concepts that helps in the identity formation, and we are going to start by defining what is socialization. So socialization is the lifelong social process, take note of that, lifelong social process where people develop their individual potentials and learn or adapt culture. So the personal development of people is really dependent in this socialization process, and socialization starts at when a baby is born and ends upon death. And this process is strengthened by human interactions, especially those interactions that are significant enough to have an effect on a person's belief system or the person's behavior. For example, we Filipinos, we are no exemption to this process of socialization. When we are born and as we grow, we are immediately exposed to different social practices or activities that shaped our perceptions and our personalities. Even as a young children, diba, we are taught that paying respect to the elderly could be shown through the practice of pagmamano or by saying po and opo. And very early on as well, Filipinos are taught that our family or the family is important, and undoubtedly the family is an important part of our personal development as a Filipino. And socialization also includes or included as well in our daily lives. For example, during this meeting where we socialize, where we socialize with each other in terms of exchanging ideas or perception towards things, you with your you with your classmates or with your friends, when you're sharing your thoughts and your emotions, when you're exchanging experiences that both of you learned. And well, socialization also evolved through time. So we have different platforms now where we can socialize with all the people all across the continents. We have Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms where we can express, we can share, and learn as well from each other. And also be it in terms of culture, in terms of different matters. So, what is enculturation then? Are socialization and enculturation interrelated concepts? So, let's define naman enculturation. So, enculturation is the process where an individual or a group learns culture through experience or observation. So, enculturation is an important part of socialization. So, you can just think of it as enculturation is under socialization, because in socialization, it's a broad concept. We can socialize with different motives, not related to culture or related to culture. If it has something to do with the culture, it is under enculturation. But enculturation is can be done through socialization. Can you get their difference and similarities as well? And as I said, itong enculturation nga, this is important part of the socialization, because by this or this enculturation enables the culture to be shared among the members of the society and to let the culture stay alive all throughout. So during our previous discussion, we learned naman that culture is important because it facilitates identity formation for us. It enables us to acquire the qualities, yung mga culture ng ating specific cultural group, and that gives us our identity as part of that cultural group. So Di ba remember that the question I asked you before, what makes you a Filipino? Some of you answered different behavior, different characteristics with regards to being a Filipino. So those behaviors and characteristics are the things that you learned through enculturation, socializing with your family, with your friends, with the people around you. But again, socialization is a broad concept when it is something about culture, preserving or letting culture be still present in your generation and in the future time. It's specifically enculturation. Are we clear with that, Asprey? Okay, now let's move on to this third bullet, nature versus nurture. Actually, this third and fourth bullet, ito yung mga bagay na na-encounter niyo na during your previous subject. I think personal development during your 11th grade, first semester. Can you still remember the concept of nurture versus nature or nature versus nurture? Naalala niyo pa ba to? for for how many years or decades there has been ongoing discussion about the origin of our behavior, the human behavior and human personality, and social scientists call this as the nature versus nurture debate. So according to the supporters of the nature principles, uh, human personality, our personality and our identity is inborn and is inherited. Do you believe in that? So this would mean that who we are as an individuals are primarily shaped by our genetics. And on the other hand, the supporters of the nurture principles, they emphasize that our personalities are shaped from birth onwards by the social forces that we interact with. So this would mean that how we perceive our world is based on our environment, and the social groups have a big impact on the development of our personality. And since the beginning of the debate about this nurture versus nature, different theorists or social scientists have tried to prove each other's point wrong. So mali daw yung nurture, mali daw yung nature. By studying some stuff like, for example, they studied identical twins. Identical twins have been the subject for research for how many years, wherein some of the social scientists aim to discover if biological factor or it's the environmental factor that plays role in terms of development or the development of the twins' personality. And studies about the thinking as well and the behavior of the serial killers, those were also used in terms of determining the predispositions in terms of committing crimes. Kapag ba ang parents ay criminal, magiging criminal na din ng anak, or it's based on the social environmental factor kung saan lumaki yung bata, and regardless kung criminal ba or hindi yung parent niya. So those are the thing that was under the nature versus nurture debate. Now we have different theories that tries to explain the identity formation or how we gain our identity, our behavior, and our characteristics. And I bet you're familiar with this Sigmund Freud's psychodynamic theory. Can you show me a thumbs up if you're familiar with this? Well, this is most known as the psychosexual theory. Can you still remember this? Sa ano nga to? Sa is in your personal development. Who's your teacher back then? Naalala niyo pa yung teacher niyo? Siyempre naman siguro yung teacher na naalala niyo pa. Ah, okay, Sir Paulo. So, Sigmund Freud, he placed great emphasis on the unconscious in the identity development. According to him, human beings have a basic need to express their sexual tensions and aggressions. And because these are typically not acceptable mechanism in our society, we suffer from anxiety that pave way for the development of some psychological fixations. So Freud relied heavily on biology and genetics to explain human behavior. Can you remember the concept of psychosexual theory? Diba? He identified different pleasure areas, or what is the other term for the pleasure areas? The erogenous zones. Can you still recall that? According to him, sa theory niya, in different stages. We have five, five stages in psychosexual theory, and in each stage, nag-iiba yung mga pleasure area. So, yeah, according to this theory, there is this satisfaction that needs to be met in each erogenous zones, and whether that satisfaction was met or not will then determine if that individual will develop this certain characteristics or behavior or identity. So let's say for example, sa first stage, sa oral stage, syempre nasa mouth yung pleasure area. Kapag hindi nabigay yung satisfaction sa erogenous zones, magde-develop too less or too little of the satisfaction can lead to the development of certain characteristics. Naalala niyo pa ba yun? Yes, James?
Sir, fixation po ata yung tinutukoy niyo dun, sir. Tama po
Oh,
ba?
yeah. Yeah, kapag hindi balance, hindi nag-balance, or hindi nabigay yung enough na satisfaction, too little or too much of that can lead to development of certain characteristics as the fixation. Yeah, thank you, James. And yeah, that is the concept of Sigmund Freud's theory. Now let's have John Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Are you familiar with this? Can you still recall this? The cognitive development, according to Piaget, human identity, our identity, the development of our identity is influenced greatly by, of course, the cognitive process, as here, about cognitive development. It is facilitated by cognitive processes. So that is the mechanism of the brain. So he came to understand the human behavior upon observing his three children growing up, and according to him, humans develop their personality during childhood in four particular stages. So we have four stages dito sa cognitive development. We have the sensory motor stage, the pre-operational stage, the concrete operational stage, and the formal operational stage. Can you recall those stages? And then the concept na related sa cognitive development, we have the concept of schema, assimilation, accommodation, equilibrium, disequilibrium. Can you recall those concepts? Naalala pa ba? Schema. What is schema? Start tayo sa schema. Diba, you can imagine yung brain natin, like marami siyang filing cabinet. So yung mga filing cabinet na yan, each cabinet, yun yung schema. Let's say for example, yung bata. May storybook siya. Tapos tinuturuan siya ng mother niya. So this is a dog. May foreleg at may tail. Furry. So ngayon, ano malalagay sa schema ng bata? Okay, dog, may foreleg, at may tail. Ngayon, let's say for example, after a few days, lumabas sila sa park. May nakita siyang animal na may four legs, may tail, furry. Sasabihin ng bata, oh, dog, a dog. And then, yun yung schema niya sa dog. And then let's say for example, biglang nag-bark yung dog. Magkakaroon ngayon ng disequilibrium kasi hindi na ngayon nagmamatch yung schema niya sa kung ano yung na-perceive niya. So by the process of assimilation and by the guidance of, kaya importante yung guidance ng parents, sasabihin ngayon ng parent na ang dog ay may four legs, oo, may tail, at nagbabark. So the process of assimilation is you're putting a supporting information or another detail doon sa schema ng isang bagay, sa schema ng dog. So ngayon, by the process of assimilation, nalaman na ng bata na aside from four legs, aside from tail at mabalahibo, ang dog din ay nagbabark. Can you get the point of schema and assimilation? Asprey? Now let's move on. Ano naman yung accommodation? Kasi for example, naglakad ulit sila sa park. And then may nakita na namang hayop yung bata. Kita niya may four legs, may tail. Sinabi niya agad kasi yun yung schema niya, yun yung isa sa mga schema or laman ng schema niya about dog. Sasabihin ng bata, dog. Eh bigla nag-meow yung animal. Nagkaroon na naman ng disequilibrium. Ano to? Bakit hindi nag-bark? Bakit nag-meow siya? So may disequilibrium na naman. So again, with the presence of the guidance or the parents, sabihin na that is a cat. So ngayon nagkaroon ng doon na papasok yung accommodation. Gumagawa na ng panibagong schema yung bata na okay, etong bagay itong hayop na to hindi siya dog. This is a separate animal than the dog. So meron siyang four legs, meron siyang tail, mabalahibo din siya, pero nagmi-meow siya. So, yun na, yung doon na papasok yung accommodation, creating another schema for another information. And then the process goes on and on and on until na enough na yung time na hindi na siya need ng hindi na kailangan ng need ng guidance ng parents at kaya nang i-identify or mag-undergo ng process ng assimilation and accommodation without the support of anyone. Okay, so kapag ang bata nakakita ng ibang hayop tapos sinabi niya dog, kasi yun lang yung laman ng schema niya. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa napaprocess, wala pang assimilation, wala pang accommodation, kung ano yung klase ng hayop na yon. Dahil alam niya na ang dog ay ganitong itsura, basta nakakita siya ng hayop na ganito yung itsura, dahil hindi pa dumadaan sa process ng accommodation. Have you experienced that? May bata ba sa inyo? Tapos lagi niyang tinatawag na dog lang yung mga certain animal or let's say yung certain ibang mga bagay, tinatawag niya ng isang bagay lang kahit hindi naman yun yung bagay na nakikita niya. Dahil yun pa lang yung nasa schema niya. And that child needs to undergo different processes, assimilation and accommodation para ma-perceive ng tama kung ano yung mga bagay na nasa paligid niya. Can you get the point of those concepts? The schema, assimilation, accommodation, and equilibrium, by the way. Ito yung kapag tama na yung pinaperceive ng bata sa kung ano yung nakikita niya talaga. Can you get the point? Can you show me a thumbs up if you can still follow? So that we can proceed to the next theory, which is the theory of moral development. Are you familiar with this? So this theory actually is based on the cognitive theory of John Piaget. So according to Lawrence Kohlberg, human beings begin to face moral issues on their own pre-conventional level. So during which the kids form their sense of right and wrong, and as the children grow, they move on to succeeding stages. Diba we have 6 stages ng moral development, and each stages divided siya. I mean, yung stages na yun na 6 divided siya sa 3 level. Yung level 1 pre-conventional morality. Yung level 2, conventional morality. At yung level 3, post-conventional morality. Under level 1, andun yung stage 1 and stage 2. Under level 2, andun yung stage 3 at stage 4. Under level 3, andun yung stage 5 at stage 6. And are you familiar with this? So let's have a review about this. How about the others? I can see Len at daw. How about the others? Are you familiar with this theory of moral development? Can you still remember this? Okay. I want you to close your eyes. Pikit kayo. Close your eyes. And imagine a face-to-face setup to. And wala pa kayong class. Nandun kayo sa gym, sa multi-purpose hall. Tapos, may nakita kayong 2 grade 12 students na binubuli yung grade 8 na bata. So yung grade 12 na yun, siguro si CJ yun, pati si Basti. Binubuli nila yung grade 8. Ngayon, I want you to think kung ano yung gagawin nyo kapag nakakita kayo ng 2 grade 12 students, binubuli niya yung grade 8. Ano yung magiging respond nyo? I will give you like a minute or 2 to think of your response. And then later on, I'm going to discuss each stages. So tingnan nyo, nasang stage kaya kayo ng moral development. O isipin nyo na kung ano yung magiging response nyo. Naisip nyo na ba? Can you show me a thumbs up kapag naisip nyo na kung ano yung gagawin nyo pag nakakita kayo ng binubuli? Nakaisip na ba? Show me a thumbs up if yes. So, let's begin with stage 1. So again, itong level 1, ang sakop niya stage 1 and stage 2. This is the pre-conventional morality. And stage 1, this is the obedience and punishment. So this is mostly governed by the fear of the punishment. Kapag ka ang response mo ay, hindi ako lalapit, hindi ko sila pupuntahan kasi baka madamay ako at pag dumating si teacher, masama ako sa punishment. Ayokong madamay kasi ayokong mapunish. sa guidance or by my teacher. So kapag ganun yung response mo doon sa situation na yon, nasa stage 1 ka ng moral development. Now, ano naman kapag nasa stage 2 ka? Stage 2 naman is individualism and exchange. Ang stage 2 naman, ganito yung magiging parang perception mo. Alam ko na mapapunish ako kapag sumama ako, pag lumapit ako, pag pinagtanggol ko yung bully. Baka maging part ako ng pwedeng pagalitan. Pero, what if sa akin mangyari yon? Kailangan tulungan ko siya para pag sa akin naman nangyari yun, tutulungan niya din ako. Kasi bullies tong mga to eh. So pag tinatanggol ko siya, para may mag-gain ako, para tulungan niya din ako kapag ako naman yung nasa situation niya. So the thing that governs here is your self-interest. Ano ba yung magiging, ano ba yung makukuha mo kapag tinulungan mo siya? Yun yung mas iniisip mo in that kind of situation. So that is stage 2. Next, yung stage 3 naman, it is the developing good interpersonal relationship. Sa stage 3 naman, nakita mo na marami lang ding nakatingin. Tapos nakatingin ka din. And gusto mo, you perceive na gusto ko hindi ako tingnan ng mga tao dito as someone na nakikisali sa conflict or I don't wanna perceive as basag ulo or makikipag-away, nakikipagsuntukan lagi. Gusto ko studious lang ako, type of student. Parang ang tumatakbo sa isip mo, what do others think of me? The peer pressure, the concept of peer pressure yung nangingibabaw dito. Ayokong magmukhang ganito, ganito ako, kaya hindi ako makiki-involve doon sa conflict, sa bullying na nangyayari. That is stage 3. Ngayon, yung stage 4, this is maintaining social order. Kasi for example, lalapit ka doon, hindi pwede yan, bawal yan, according to handbook. Hindi dapat kayo nang susuntukan dito. Ayan. Kapag may complaint, dapat dinadaan sa maayos na process. If you uphold authority or the rules, if you follow rules, if you uphold the rules that sustains the functioning of your society or community, nasa stage 4 ka. Pag lahat ng ginagawa mo, binabase mo sa this is the right thing to do because this is under the rule. Nasa stage 4. Ganun. Pag nasa stage 5 ka naman, ito naman yung nakatanaw ka lang sa malayo, tinitingnan mo lang, tapos iniisip mo, yung mga rules make sense only if they serve the right purpose. Eh, nakita ko nga yung grade 8 na yan, sinaktan niya yung grade 7 eh. So baka deserve niya lang yan na siya naman yung saktan ng grade 12. Kasi iniisip mo, does the rules serve all members of the community? Bakit nung yung grade 7 yung sinapak niya, hindi naman siya pinakaalaman? So this is like yung nagiging complicated yung yung perception mo towards sa mga situation. You're not most relied on the rules. You're somehow questioning the rules and most people nag-end dito sa stage 5. Pero may stage 6 pa tayo. Stage 6 is the universal principle. Let's say for example, dinala siya sa guidance. And then of course, the counselor, dapat ang gagawin niya is to explain first yung school rules at kung bakit nag exist yung school rules. Hindi lang dahil, ginawa mo yan, ginawa na nakipagsuntukan ka. Bawal yan sa rules. Ito yung mga rules natin. Dahil dyan, sususpend ka. Hindi dapat ganun yung mindset ng isang dapat ay nasa stage 6 na counselor. So dapat i-clarify niyo muna, explain niya kung bakit ba nag-exist yung rules na yan. And sasabihin niya na yung mga rules na yon, they're only valid if they are grounded with justice. Without justice to those rules are para magiging useless na lang. And the highest principle in the universal principle is the compassion. Compassion in terms of understanding each other's point of view. Hindi porkat ikaw yung nanakit, ikaw na agad yung masama. You should always have a compassion in terms of letting the both sides express kung bakit ganito yung nangyari and all. And the main thing na nag-govern sa isang taong nasa stage 6 ng moral development ay yung idea or yung question na what are the ethical principles that serves my understanding of justice? Ano ba yung justice for me? Kasi justice is needed para maging valid yung mga rules na meron tayo. If you think that way, If hindi ka basta-basta nagbibigay ng judgment mo out of rules and all, nasa level 6 ka ng moral development. So those are the different stages of moral development. So kayo, kanina nung pinapaisip ko kayo kung ano yung magiging response nyo, nasa ang level kaya yung morality nyo according to this theory. Ano ba yung naging response nyo? Level 1 ba? Ayoko makisali kasi ayoko mag-guidance. Ano bang level yung naging response niya? Well, anyway, you take it on your own na. Next, we have this Eric Erikson post Freudian theory. Are you familiar with this? This is also known as this psychosocial theory. Can you remember this? This is very famous, I think. Naalala niyo to? Napagdaanan niyo ba to? Psychosocial? So, Eric Erikson, he is a psychodynamic theories that formulated his own theory, of course, which considered it is like kaya nga ito yung term sa kanya post Freudian theory kasi it is like the extension of Sigmund Freud's psychosexual theory. And according to him, to Erikson, human development does not end only in childhood, pero parang it is continuous until the end of our life or during umabot ka ng senior citizen, meron pa rin development ng personality happening there. So, in a person's lifetime, again, there is a continuous process of identity development and it is characterized by 8 particular stages. And kung maalala niyo yung mga stages dito, versus, this thing versus this thing, naalala niyo na? Naalala niyo pa ba? So, in every stage, kasi yung mga stage na yun, para mga conflict siya, kasi nga mga versus siya, dapat ma-resolve siya. And then yung outcome ng conflict na yun, whether kung ma-resolve yung conflict or not, will pave way to the development of a certain personality or identity. So let's have one example. The first conflict sa social theory, trust versus mistrust. Can you recall now? Are you familiar with this? The first conflict of the psychosocial theory, trust versus mistrust. So this is during the infancy, pag baby pa. And an important event here is when the parent is feeding their infant or yung mga baby. Let's say for example, umiyak yung baby umiyak siya. Kapag napapadede or nabibigyan ng milk, kapag umiyak yung baby, the baby will then develop the trust, the sense of trust. Kasi parang ang magiging idea dito or the question dito ng baby, well, not question of the baby itself, but the concept applied here, can I trust the people around me? Kapag umiyak ba ako, nagugutom ako, I cannot do anything, will they give me milk or not? And then kapag, yun nga, nabibigay mo yung mga kailangan, the baby will develop sense of trust. Pero kapag hindi, the baby will then develop sense of mistrust. So the baby, as that baby grows old, magiging doubted siya and all that is associated to mistrust. And kapag naman na-develop yung sense of trust, later on yung baby, magkakaroon or madedevelop yung virtue of hope. So paano naman natin ma-observe kung na-develop yung virtue of hope? So, paano natin ma-observe kung yung stage 1 ba ng psychosocial theory, maayos ba yung naging stage 1 ng psychosocial theory ng baby? Let's say, for example, lumaki na yung baby, naging preschool na siya, kinder, or let's say grade 1. Tapos, imagine again, a face-to-face setup. Ang uwian, let's say, for example, ng grade 1 ay 12 p.m. Wala siyang service, sinusundo lang siya ng mommy niya, 12:30 na. Wala pa rin yung mami niya. Almost 1 na. Wala pa rin yung mami niya. Ano ba yung napapansin nyo sa mga preschool, sa kinder, kapag nakikita nila na umuwi na yung classmates nila? Sinusundo na yung classmates ko, pero ako nandito pa din ako. Ano yung napapansin nyo na ginagawa or nangyayari sa mga batang naiiwan or hindi nasusundo agad? Di ba umiiyak sila? Kasi nagda-doubt sila na baka hindi na ako sunduin na mami ko, nasa na ba yung mami ko? Pero kapag ang bata na-develop sa kanya yung sense of trust during infancy in this stage of the psychosocial theory, yung bata na yan will just stay in the room Titingin-tingin sa paligid pero hindi siya iyak. Kasi na-develop yung virtue of hope sa kanya. That no matter what happens, maging 1 p.m. man, mag-aantay ako kasi alam kong susunduin ako ng mami ko. Can you get the point? Kapag na-settle ng maayos yung each stages ng social theory in each stages, may mga virtues na madedevelop yung mga bata or yung mga tao. And it happens or yung stages na yun hanggang sa pagdating ng late adulthood. Kahit na matanda ka na, senior citizen ka na, meron pa rin versus dyan. And kung ano man yung magiging response mo doon mababatay kung ano yung magiging identity or characteristics or behavior mo or kung anong virtue yung madedevelop mo. Are we clear? Can you show me a thumbs up if you can still follow? And then this last one, this is the George Herbert Mead's theory of social self. Well, Mead greatly emphasized in his theory that personality and identity development is a product of your experiences. And well, the main concept of this theory, it says here na you placed your identity upon how you perceive yourself. Hindi ka naapektuhan ng outside environment mo. Well, you can be affected but only by few people that is really significant to you. Doon nakabatay kung ano yung mga possible behaviors and possible identities na ma-develop mo. But hindi ka maapektuhan ng other parts of the society because you're greatly concerned about yourself and then the thoughts of some significant people around you. That is the short concept of this theory of social self. Okay, so those are the things, the concepts and theories that is part of the identity development. Do you have any question or any clarification before we end our class today?